Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Today I'm looking at a very useful book for anybody running a law firm, whether it's a solicitor's firm or in fact a set of chambers. The book is actually called The Changing of the Guard. It's got a subtitle, Selecting Your Next Firm Leader. It's been written by Patrick J McKenna and it comes from Ark Group, which is in fact a Wilmington company. The book's been written in association with Managing Partner. My wife Elizabeth and I have written this review. We've given our review the title, Managing Leadership Change in Your Law Firm. Read The Changing of the Guard for a practical, pragmatic approach. And that's what you get with this book. Let's have a look at it first of all. This is the book. It's a paperback. It's not a long book. It's more in the form of a report. There's the front, there's the side, and then there's the back. You can see it runs to something like 140 pages. It's set in a standard management style. There are interviews. For instance, there's a classic example at the back of one of the interviews. At the front, you've got the standard front cover, the details about Ark Group and so forth there. Then you've got the contents, and you can see there's an introduction and therefore part one, making ready, and then we go into various different parts from there onwards. Part two, identifying criteria and so forth. Then you've got right at the back further information and appendices. You've also got details about the author. Can I make one comment, and that is first of all the actual additional questions and reference material at the end of each chapter, which is quite useful to find. And what you do have, you also have some appendices mentioned at the end of each of the parts of the chapters. You've also got right at the end this business of various interviews which have taken place, which we'll talk about a little later, and they mention the actual firms and so forth there. Now if I just show you, there's some acknowledgements of course to assist. Then we get into the main introduction itself, which sets out what this is about, the leadership succession process. Then you go from there into the main book, which is, you have an appendix A and then you have the main chapters. In fact, chapter 1 is set out in this particular way. It says making ready, part 1, in chapter 1, choosing a nominating committee and so forth. And it runs through in that way, and you can see halfway through you've got exhibits, for instance, which the word exhibit is mentioned. That sets out certain things that you might be considering doing in terms of the content of the chapter, and what they're suggesting might be one or two different types of approach. It's a very interesting book. Now, what do we say about it? Well, we say the following, and that is that in any business, change is the only constant, and so it is with law firms. Change requires adaptability, forward thinking, and a systematic, rational approach to challenge. One of the biggest challenges, in fact, possibly the biggest, is responding to the imminent and possibly urgent need for a change in the management of a law firm. Choosing the right individual to lead your firm is crucial, as it will inevitably impact on the future standing and reputation of your firm, not to mention its future profitability. And that's the starting point of this particular report. So if your firm is facing a change of senior management within a certain time frame, we think you would do well to acquire this new publication from Ark Group. Whilst conceding that every legal practice is unique, the author, Patrick J McKenna, offers some cogent, plain-speaking advice to help you and your colleagues establish the right selection criteria and a rational plan of action aimed at helping you make the right decisions in choosing your leader instead of the wrong ones. And the exhibit shaded box areas will of course assist you in the actual report itself. McKenna warns, for example, about the heirs and successors syndrome, which the current leader of a firm, usually the managing partner, who when facing retirement chooses the next in line to the throne, so to speak. This may be the right decision, but then again it may not. The author therefore suggests other options and alternatives, and they are actually probably quite important for the overall mission statement and plan for the firm. The resulting advice covers a fairly wide range of circumstances. If, for example, your firm is looking to effect a change of leadership in the next year or so, the book offers a logical step-by-step guide to the best ways to go about defining and refining your eventual choice. Or if you find yourself in an emergency situation of sorts, which is actually not good, in which your current leader has suddenly left in a huff, or fled to pastures new, or dropped you in it, then ideally you need to find a successor by tomorrow morning. Also not a good thing to have to happen. In which case this book can help you cope. The author's initial advice here, by the way, is to appoint an interim leader, thereby adopting a business as usual approach which, for the time being, will reassure clients, colleagues and other interested parties, and probably the press as well. You and your team may not have made the ideal choice, but at least this temporary expedient has given you a breathing space to decide what to do next. Good advice? No doubt about it, and indeed the book carries on in much the same vein, covering a number of related challenges and issues, including the different types of leadership selection processes. It tends to focus on the contested election and many of the possible consequences, some of them unintended, like jealousy, factionalism, taking sides and so on. Any one of these problems can undermine a firm's morale and productivity, so it's useful to know how they may be avoided. The author, whose 3 decades of experience has led to his being the subject of a case study at Harvard Law School, lends a reassuring weight of authority to what he puts forward as effective strategy in this type of endeavour, which is definitely not an easy journey. Let me conclude by saying this, that nevertheless, McKenna's insightful commentary on the characteristics of good leadership, supported by actual cases and interviews, can help you anticipate the possible pitfalls of a leadership selection process. And who knows, this book might even help you engineer your own promotion in the not too distant future. Let me just show the book again very quickly. Front cover there, spine, and then a bit of data on the back about the author, which is repeated inside. Just opening it up in the middle. Again, I mentioned the word exhibits. You see there, that is set out. It's actually trying to give you effectively some form of strategy. Then, of course, with the various chapter headings, this one's developing a formal written application form and process. Much of this actually is common sense, but it is quite an important matter to bear in mind. I rather like the end quote. "Uneasily lies the head that wears a crown," from William Shakespeare, taken from Henry IV. Well, I'd like to thank Patrick McKenna and the Ark Group and all the people involved, the people who were interviewed, for giving us, again, a very useful management tool, which will, I believe, help the firm survive very successfully in the modern 21st century that we live in. Thank you to all concerned anyway. Bye-bye.